Isabella had always been a determined young woman. At 25, she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, or at least the weight of her family's expectations. She was the heiress to one of the largest tech companies in the world, a company founded by her grandfather, a visionary who started from nothing and built an empire. Isabella had long brown hair that always shone in the sunlight and deep green eyes that revealed her intelligence and determination. She had an elegant and sophisticated presence, but behind her confident appearance, she struggled with insecurities and fears. That rainy morning, Isabella woke up early, but time seemed to slip through her fingers. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror while brushing her teeth, recalling the stories her grandfather used to tell about the challenges he faced building the company. "I hope I can live up to him," she thought, feeling a knot in her stomach. She knew her first day at the family company would be crucial in proving her worth. As she got ready, Isabella chose an elegant yet understated outfit, a white silk blouse and a black pencil skirt, paired with a blazer that gave her a professional look. She picked up a pearl necklace that had belonged to her mother and fastened it around her neck, a talisman of comfort and strength. Her thoughts raced. What if I can't handle the pressure? What if I disappoint my family? Isabella tried to push away the doubts as she applied her makeup. Her movements were precise, but there was a slight tremor in her hands. "Breathe deeply," she told herself. "You've trained for this. You're ready." But the words felt hollow, as the reality of taking on such a high position at a young age was overwhelming. The rain pounded against the windows as Isabella hurried down the stairs, her heels echoing on the marble floor. In the kitchen, she grabbed an apple and a cup of coffee, trying to stave off the pangs of hunger and nausea. She took one last look around the house, an elegant mansion that always made her feel a mix of security and entrapment. It was her family's legacy, a symbol of what she was about to face. Isabella ran to the car, a black sedan waiting at the entrance. The driver, accustomed to the family's punctuality, noticed the slight delay but said nothing. "To the company headquarters, please," Isabella said, trying to sound confident. During the drive, she watched the city through rain-streaked windows, reflecting on the many times her grandfather inspired her with his stories of perseverance. Upon arriving at the company's imposing building, Isabella felt her heart race. The entrance was grand, with a glass facade reflecting the city and the rain. She took a deep breath and walked in, trying to absorb the feeling of being there, not just as a visitor, but as a leader. Her first steps inside the building were crucial. Employees watched her, some with curiosity, others with skepticism. Isabella kept her head high and a slight smile on her lips, but inside, she felt like a child trying to fill her father's shoes. She walked to the elevator, remembering her grandfather's words, "Leadership isn't about having all the answers, but about having the courage to seek solutions." With those words in mind, Isabella stepped into the elevator that would take her to her new office, ready to face the challenges ahead, determined not only to honor her family's legacy, but also to build her own. As Isabella's car moved slowly through the congested morning traffic in the rain, she watched the raindrops trickle down the window, creating ephemeral patterns. The driver maintained a steady speed, avoiding puddles and hurried pedestrians. Isabella tried to calm herself, remembering her grandfather's encouraging words. Suddenly, something caught her eye. On the sidewalk, in the pouring rain, she saw a hunched and fragile figure. An elderly woman sat on the curb, with torn and soaked clothes, trying to shield herself from the cold with a piece of plastic. The scene was heartbreaking. Isabella felt an uncontrollable urge to help. "Stop the car," Isabella ordered the driver. He braked abruptly, confused but compliant. Isabella opened the door and ran out, holding her umbrella against the strong wind. She approached the elderly woman, who looked up with tired and surprised eyes. "Hello," Isabella said gently, crouching beside the woman. "Are you okay?" The elderly woman shook her head, her voice trembling from the cold. "I'm just trying to stay out of the rain. Please, let me help you," Isabella said, her voice filled with compassion. "Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe." With some effort, Isabella helped the woman up and guided her to the car. The driver opened the back door, clearly surprised but saying nothing. The elderly woman carefully got into the car, visibly uncomfortable but grateful. Isabella followed her in, closing the door and handing the umbrella to the driver. She sat next to the woman and smiled, trying to convey warmth and safety. "My name is Isabella," she said softly. "What's yours?" "Julia," the elderly woman replied, her voice still trembling. "Thank you so much, Isabella. You are very kind." On the way to the office, Isabella and Julia exchanged a few words, each laden with meaning. Their connection formed quickly, united by a thread of compassion and empathy. "It's okay, Julia. We're going to my office. There, you can warm up, and I can help find a safe place for you." "You didn't have to do this for me, Isabella. Most people don't even notice me. Sometimes it's important to stop and help those in need. My grandfather always said that a person's true worth is measured by their capacity for compassion. Your grandfather was a wise man. You must be very much like him. I hope to live up to him. Today is my first day at the company he founded. I'm a bit nervous." "Believe in yourself, Isabella. Your kindness already shows you have a good heart. That's the most important thing." When the car stopped in front of the company's imposing building, Isabella felt a mix of emotions. Having Julia by her side gave her a new perspective on her own life and responsibilities. She helped Julia out of the car, and together they walked to the main entrance. Employees watched with curiosity and surprise as Isabella, with her head held high, escorted Julia through the lobby. The rain still fell outside, but within Isabella's heart, a new flame of determination burned. She knew this unexpected encounter wasn't just an act of charity, but a reminder that compassion and humanity should be at the core of everything she did. As they entered the elevator that would take them to the office, Isabella felt that despite all her insecurities, she was on the right path. Julia, by her side, was a symbol of resilience and hope, and Isabella was determined to make a difference, starting with this first day at work. The company's lobby was a spacious and modern area, with glass walls offering a panoramic view of the city. Employees dressed in elegant suits and dresses hurried about, carrying briefcases and laptops. The sound of muffled conversations and the constant click of high heels on the marble floor echoed through the space. When Isabella walked in with Julia by her side, the dynamics changed instantly. Curious and surprised glances turned towards them. A murmur swept through the lobby as employees exchanged confused looks and whispered among themselves. Isabella kept her head high, though she could feel the stares weighing on her. She knew many were wondering why a homeless woman was there beside the company's heiress. Every step she took seemed to echo louder, but she refused to yield to the pressure. Approaching the reception desk, the receptionist, an impeccably dressed young woman, glanced briefly at Julia before addressing Isabella. "Good morning, Miss Isabella," the receptionist said with a professional smile, though her eyes betrayed her curiosity. "How can I help you?" "Good morning," Isabella replied firmly but kindly. "This is Julia. She is my guest today. Please issue a visitor badge for her." The receptionist hesitated for a moment but complied. Handing a badge to Julia, Isabella took the badge and helped Julia put it on, thanking the receptionist. As they walked towards the elevator, Isabella could hear whispers around her. "Who is that woman? What is she doing here? Did you see her clothes?" Isabella felt a mix of frustration and determination. She knew she needed to stand by her decision, but also that actions spoke louder than words. While riding the elevator, Isabella had a moment to reflect. Observing Julia beside her, with the visitor badge hanging around her neck, Isabella thought about the stark inequality between their lives. Julia, with her torn clothes and fragile appearance, was a stark reminder of how cruel and unjust life could be. Isabella remembered her grandfather's words about social responsibility and humanity. He always believed that despite financial success, true leadership came from the heart and compassion. Isabella wondered how many others like Julia went unnoticed every day, invisible to a society so focused on success and material wealth. Isabella thought, "It's easy to ignore the world's problems when you're in a privileged position. Today, more than ever, I feel the need to use my position to make a difference. Maybe, by helping Julia, I can start to change things, even if just a little." The elevator arrived at the executive floor, and the doors opened with a soft chime. Isabella and Julia stepped out, walking down the elegant corridor. Isabella felt a new determination blossom within her. She knew that this day wouldn't just be about proving her professional competence, but also about demonstrating that compassion and empathy were essential to true leadership. Upon reaching her office, Isabella was greeted by her assistants and several executives, all clearly bewildered by Julia's presence. "Good morning, Isabella," said Mark, her chief assistant, trying to mask his surprise. "Can we discuss today's agenda?" "Of course, Mark," Isabella replied calmly. "But first, I'd like to introduce Julia. She'll be with us today. Let's start the meeting in the conference room in 5 minutes." There was a moment of silence before the executives began murmuring among themselves. Isabella could see the disapproval on some faces, but she ignored it and led Julia to the conference room. As everyone took their seats, Isabella began the meeting. "I know many of you are surprised by Julia's presence today," she started, looking directly into each person's eyes. "But I want to make it clear that our company isn't just about profits and technology. We are a community, and our responsibility is also to the society around us. Julia is a special guest. She has a unique perspective that I believe is valuable to all of us. We need to remember our humanity and the impact we can have on the world." The faces in the room were a mix of skepticism and admiration. Isabella knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to show that her decision to help Julia wasn't just an act of charity, but a declaration of her values and the direction she wanted for the company. As the meeting progressed, Isabella felt a renewed strength. Julia was by her side, a symbol of resilience and hope. Isabella knew the day would be full of challenges, but she was ready to face them, determined to prove that compassion and leadership go hand in hand. And so, her first day at the office, with Julia by her side, became a milestone in Isabella's life. A constant reminder that every small action can have a profound impact, and that sometimes, a simple act of kindness can change the course of a life, or many. "Julia, I can't help but notice that you know a lot about this company, more than you could from just observing from the outside. How do you have all this knowledge?" Julia looked at Isabella with an enigmatic smile and a sparkle in her eyes. She knew this moment would come. "Isabella, there's much you don't know about me and the history of this company. I'm not just a homeless woman. Many years ago, I worked here, side by side with your grandfather." Isabella was stunned. "You worked with my grandfather? But why have I never heard of you?" Julia sighed deeply. "Your uncle made sure to erase my presence after your grandfather passed away. He saw me as a threat to his power. I was one of the founding partners, but I was betrayed and sidelined." Julia's revelation left Isabella both disturbed and determined to uncover the truth. She decided to investigate the company's old records, hoping to find some trace of Julia's past. Isabella spent several nights combing through old documents, reports, and financial records. One night, exhausted, she found a dusty folder at the back of a locked cabinet. Inside were old correspondences between her grandfather and Julia, partnership contracts, and financial records showing Julia as one of the founders and main investors of the company. But what caught Isabella's attention most were handwritten letters and notes from her grandfather. In one, he expressed concern about his brothers, Isabella's uncle, growing influence, and mentioned a conspiracy to remove Julia from the company. With the documents in hand, Isabella went to Julia, who was in the small office they had set up for her. "Julia, I found something you need to see." Isabella placed the documents on the table in front of Julia, who began to flip through them with trembling hands. "These are the proofs of everything I suspected," said Julia, tears welling up in her eyes. "I knew your uncle was involved, but I never had the evidence." "My uncle did this to you? He pushed you out of the company and tried to erase your history?" Isabella asked, incredulous. "Yes," Julia replied, her voice thick with emotion. "He wanted total control. He saw me as a threat and did everything to get me out of the way. I was betrayed by someone I trusted. Your grandfather tried to protect me, but he was ill and couldn't stop it all." Determined to expose the truth, Isabella decided she needed to confront her uncle. But first, she wanted to gather more evidence. She continued her investigations, now with Julia's help. Together, they found altered financial records, incriminating emails, and testimonies from former employees who had been silenced or fired for questioning the administrative changes. Finally, Isabella felt ready to face her uncle. She called an emergency meeting with the board of directors, including her uncle. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Isabella began, trying to keep her voice steady. "There is something very serious we need to discuss." Her uncle, always confident, looked at her with a condescending smile. "What's so urgent, Isabella?" Isabella placed the documents on the table in front of them. "I found evidence that you conspired to remove Julia from the company and erase her contributions. You manipulated financial records and threatened employees to secure your power." Her uncle's smile vanished, replaced by an expression of anger and fear. "This is nonsense. Where did you find these lies?" "In the company archives," Isabella replied, looking him straight in the eyes. "And I have witnesses willing to speak. I will not allow you to continue tarnishing our grandfather's legacy." The boardroom fell silent, shocked by the revelations. Some members began murmuring among themselves, while others looked at Isabella's uncle with suspicion. This company was built on values of integrity, innovation, and compassion, Isabella continued. "I will not allow those values to be destroyed by personal ambition. I propose we take immediate action to correct these wrongs and restore the true history of our company." The board voted unanimously in favor of Isabella's proposals. Her uncle was removed from all positions and subjected to an internal investigation. Isabella felt a wave of relief and sadness. She knew there was still a long road ahead, but with Julia by her side, she was determined to rebuild the company on the principles her grandfather had valued so much. Julia, now recognized and reinstated, became a valuable advisor to Isabella. Together, they began working on social initiatives and innovation projects that reflected the company's original spirit. Isabella felt she was finally living up to her grandfather's legacy, transforming the company into not just a tech empire, but a force for social good. Isabella spent the following days preparing for the confrontation. She gathered all the evidence she had found: old documents, altered financial records, incriminating emails, and testimonies from former employees. With Julia's help, she was able to build a solid case against her uncle and the conspirators within the company. The day of the emergency board meeting arrived. Isabella felt a mix of nervousness and determination as she walked through the company's corridors, carrying a folder full of evidence. Julia was by her side, offering moral support and a constant reminder of what was at stake. The boardroom was filled with executives and board members, all eager to hear what Isabella had to say. Her uncle, sitting at the head of the table, looked confident and unperturbed. He cast a condescending glance at Isabella as she approached the podium. Isabella took a deep breath and began. "Thank you all for coming. Today, I have something very important to share with you all. It's about our company's history and the actions of some individuals that have compromised our values and integrity." The room was silent, the tension palpable. Isabella could see the curiosity and concern in the eyes of the board members. She opened the folder and spread the documents on the table, showing the proof of her uncle's deceit. "I found evidence that my uncle, along with others, conspired to remove Julia from the company and erase her contributions. They manipulated financial records and intimidated employees to secure their control." The room erupted in murmurs and gasps. Isabella's uncle's face turned pale, and he looked around nervously. "These actions go against everything this company stands for," Isabella continued. "Integrity, innovation, and compassion are the pillars on which our grandfather built this empire. It's time to restore those values and honor the true history of our company." The board members examined the documents, their expressions shifting from shock to determination. One by one, they voiced their agreement with Isabella's findings and proposed actions. "We need to take immediate action," one member said. "This company's reputation and future depend on it." Isabella's uncle tried to defend himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. The board voted to remove him from all positions and initiate an internal investigation. With the support of the board, Isabella felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but with Julia's wisdom and the company's renewed commitment to its core values, she was ready to lead. In the weeks that followed, Isabella and Julia worked tirelessly to implement new initiatives and projects that reflected the company's original spirit. They focused on social responsibility, innovation, and creating a positive impact on the community. Isabella felt a deep sense of fulfillment as she saw the company transform. She knew her grandfather would be proud of the changes she was making, honoring his legacy and creating a better future for the company and its employees. Julia, now recognized and respected, became a trusted advisor and friend to Isabella. Together, they proved that true leadership is about more than just making profits. It's about making a difference in the world. And as they looked out at the city from the company's headquarters, they knew they were on the right path. "Thank you all for coming so quickly," Isabella began, trying to keep her voice steady. "There's something very serious we need to discuss today." "Let's get straight to the point, Isabella," her uncle said with a fake smile. "What's so urgent?" Isabella took a deep breath and opened the folder, spreading the documents across the table. "I have found evidence that you, uncle, conspired to remove Julia from the company and erase her contributions. You manipulated financial records and threatened employees to secure your power." The board members began to flip through the documents, their expressions ranging from surprise to indignation. Isabella's uncle, however, grew visibly tense. "This is absurd. Where did you find these lies?" he shouted. "In the company archives," Isabella replied, looking him directly in the eyes. "And I have witnesses ready to speak. I will not allow you to continue tarnishing our grandfather's legacy." Julia, who had remained silent by Isabella's side until then, stepped forward. Her presence seemed to electrify the room. All eyes turned to her. "I am Julia, one of the founders of this company," she said in a firm, clear voice. "I was betrayed and sidelined, my history erased, but now I am here to tell the truth." The revelation hit the room like a bombshell. Executives and board members were stunned, some recognizing Julia from old photos, others in total disbelief. "She's lying," Isabella's uncle shouted. "This is a farce." "No, it's not," Julia responded calmly. "I have proof of my association with Isabella's grandfather, and these documents confirm what I am saying. What happened to me was an injustice, and it's time we correct it." Isabella knew this was the decisive moment. She turned to the board, her voice filled with determination. This company was built on the values of integrity, innovation, and compassion. I will not allow those values to be destroyed by personal ambition. I propose we take immediate action to correct these wrongs and restore the true history of our company. The board murmured among themselves, exchanging concerned looks. One of the senior members, Mr. Whitman, stood up and spoke. "Isabella, the evidence you have presented is irrefutable. Your uncle and his accomplices must be held accountable for their actions. I support your proposal." Other board members nodded, and one by one, they began to vote in favor of Isabella's measures. Her uncle, now pale and trembling with rage, tried to protest but was cut off by Mr. Whitman. "You've had your chance to speak. Now it's time to face the consequences of your actions." With the unanimous vote in Isabella's favor, her uncle was removed from all positions and subjected to an internal investigation. The accomplices were also identified and removed from their roles. Isabella felt a wave of relief and sadness. She knew there was still a long road ahead, but with Julia by her side, she was determined to rebuild the company on the principles her grandfather had valued so much. Julia, now recognized and reinstated, became a valuable advisor to Isabella. Together, they began working on social initiatives and innovation projects that reflected the company's original spirit. Isabella felt that she was finally living up to her grandfather's legacy, transforming the company not just into a tech empire, but into a force for social good. As they left the boardroom, Isabella and Julia exchanged a look of complicity and determination. They knew the journey was just beginning, but they were ready to face any challenge that came their way, confident that together they could create a better future for the company and the community around them. After the confrontation in the boardroom, the company entered a period of intense investigation. The documents that Isabella and Julia brought to light revealed the extent of the conspiracies and corrupt practices implemented by Isabella's uncle and his accomplices. The internal audit team, along with external consultants, spent weeks reviewing every detail. Each passing day uncovered new layers of corruption, embezzlement, fraudulent contracts, and intimidation of employees who opposed Isabella's uncle's practices were meticulously documented. The culprits were removed from their positions and, in many cases, faced legal action. With the responsible parties removed, Isabella and Julia led the company's restructuring. They prioritized transparency, ethics, and employee well-being. They created a new corporate governance policy that included an independent ethics committee and mechanisms to ensure that business decisions were made with integrity and social responsibility. The remaining executives underwent rigorous training in ethics and leadership. Isabella insisted on a corporate culture based on trust, innovation, and compassion, reflecting her grandfather's values. For Isabella, exposing the conspiracies was a moment of great personal transformation. She evolved from an uncertain and anxious young heiress to a confident and determined leader. The experience taught her the importance of staying true to her values, even in the face of adversity. The company was becoming stronger and more aligned with the principles she believed in. Julia, meanwhile, went from being a forgotten homeless woman to a respected figure within the company. Her story of resilience and integrity inspired many employees. She was appointed senior advisor to Isabella, helping guide the company with her years of experience and unique perspective on the importance of social responsibility. Isabella often reflected on her journey. She remembered the mornings when she felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of leading her family's company and the nights when she doubted her abilities. Now, she felt stronger and convinced that she was on the right path. I've learned that leadership isn't just about making tough decisions, but also about staying true to one's values and principles, Isabella thought as she gazed out over the city from her office. My grandfather would be proud. Julia, by her side, shared this vision. The two women, united by improbable circumstances, were determined to use their positions to make a difference. Isabella, said Julia, I've been thinking a lot about what more we can do. I'd like to start a social project to help the homeless. I know what it's like to be in that situation, and I believe we can do much more. Isabella smiled, feeling inspired by Julia's determination. I think that's a wonderful idea, Julia. We can use our resources and influence to create a real impact. Let's do it together. With the board's approval, Julia and Isabella launched Project Hope, an initiative aimed at providing shelter, education, and job opportunities for the homeless. They used vacant company buildings to create shelters where people could find not just a place to sleep, but also support to rebuild their lives. The response was immediate and positive. Company employees volunteered in large numbers to help at the shelters. Donations and partnerships with other organizations began to pour in, expanding the project's reach. Project Hope quickly became a model for social initiatives, standing out for its holistic approach and genuine commitment to improving people's lives. Julia led the project with passion, using her own life experience to better understand and address the needs of the homeless. Meanwhile, Isabella continued to lead the company with renewed focus. She introduced corporate social responsibility programs, encouraging other companies to follow their example. Under her leadership, the company not only prospered financially, but also became a driving force for positive change in the community. At a celebration event for Project Hope, Isabella and Julia spoke to an emotional audience. Isabella reflected on the journey they had taken together. This project is not just about providing a roof for those in need, Isabella said. It's about restoring dignity and offering opportunities. It's about remembering that no matter where we come from, everyone deserves a fair chance. Julia, with tears in her eyes, added, I am here today because someone gave me a chance. And now, we are here to give that same chance to many others. That is what it means to be part of a true community. Isabella and Julia, brought together by a chance encounter on a rainy morning, transformed their lives and the lives of many others. Together, they built not only a stronger and more ethical company, but also a more just and compassionate community. And so, the story of Isabella and Julia became a lasting example of leadership, resilience, and the transformative power of compassion. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support is essential to us. And now, an exciting new story is coming up on your screen.